Hey, Riddle here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a subscriber. I really appreciate it. You know, I bounce in and out from my observations of life in America and the environment to helping people to break old habits and make magic happen in their lives to sometimes some beautiful aesthetic stuff. And of course, the home improvement stuff gets the most hits, but every once in a while I will surprise you with something really fancy, and that's what we're looking at today. I had an elder whose name was Barney Brown. He was an amazing artist and individual, and he spent most of his life in New York City and just had really good taste. And one of the things he had in his home when he moved to Los Angeles to retire was this beautiful little curio table. And basically all it was a display shelf that instead of being hung was laid flat, and he filled it full of precious things and then put it on top of a table base. And this was used as a side table or a coffee table in one of his sitting areas. I always thought that was so cool, and it was filled with really funny and curious things. So now I am at an age that I have accumulated quite a bit. And one of the things that I've always loved was tribal jewelry. And for several reasons. One, because my father's Native American, so I have kind of a natural attraction to it. Number two, when you travel the world, there are Native people everywhere. And it's always funny how when you go to other countries, how they always glamorize the Native Americans when it's the same story on every continent of how they've treated their native people. But if you can find the truth and you can actually find the native people of the different countries, you can still sometimes find beautiful handcrafted beadwork that is quite affordable. And I think it's becoming very, very rare because these people's children no longer want to be craftsmen. You know, like everybody, they want to be part of the modern world. And so I think it's a really valuable and beautiful investment. That being said, when I was dumpster diving during our move a couple months ago, because I'm too cheap to spend thousands of dollars on boxes and packing material, some store had thrown away this beautiful old oak display case. And the only thing that was wrong with it was the glass was coming out of it and needed to be re-glued, re-secured. And that's pretty much it. It just needed cleaned up. And so I snagged it, and it came with me on the move. And now as I'm just getting settled in to the new house, I'm getting back to my own project. So my old project. So I'm cleaning up the glass, and I went to my closet, and all of these things, you know, were in boxes or jewelry boxes or storage. I wasn't enjoying them at all. And, you know, one of the tricks to being a maximalist, which is the opposite of a minimalist, is knowing how to display all of your stuff so it doesn't look like garbage. So next, I think for fun, just to make it more precious, I will add a lock to the side of it. At one time, you can see, if you look over here, it actually had a key place where it locked, but that locking mechanism is gone now. So I'll put some kind of like simple lock on it, maybe something beautiful. Maybe I'll, you know, if you're gonna do something, you may as well do it right. I'll find some cool antique hinge on eBay or somewhere. And then I lovingly just started unloading my jewelry box with the whole hodgepodge of what I've collected over the years. These are authentic Winnebago Indian moccasins, and they were actually worn at powwow. And when I got them, because they were beaded with sinew, which is a natural material, they were falling apart. And I would stay up every night. I would get up in the middle of the night and lovingly re-bead these to restore them. And I actually wear them sometimes. I mean, why have something if you really can't enjoy it? But I've decided, out of respect for them, I'm going to retire them into this case. These I bought through a friend who did who does estate sales, John Lineberger, and can't remember the tribe off the top of my head, but it's a very nice example of beadwork. The gentleman who owned these was a lawyer for various tribes across the nation and lived in Washington, D.C. My friend Larissa of Wild Hunt Corsetry made this beautiful leather cuff for me. And yes, those are actual beetle wings. Amazing, right? They've used these beetle wings in Asia for centuries to create different things. This is just a great piece of Native American turquoise. I originally bought this necklace in the 1980s around Mount Rushmore. At the same time, I found this bear claw ring, and then I added this large piece of turquoise to it just to kind of make it a little more ra-sha-sha. This piece here, this is actually Peruvian, and it's malachite shell and a really good quality silver. If you go to Peru, it's amazing because we usually have 9.2 silver here, and there they have 9.5. So their metal count is higher and super high quality. And man, do they do some beautiful stuff there. This piece was actually a gift, and it was woven by a Japanese artist that I worked with many decades ago. And her name was, it'll come to me in a second. Her name was Toyoko Suzuki. And Toyoko Suzuki actually has pieces that she macrameed with very famous designers in the Fashion Museum in New York, I believe. Some incredible leather work and what have you. She was a very good friend, and Toyoko gave me the opportunity of not only experiencing and living in Japan, but having some art exhibitions there. This is a piece, I believe it's Kenyan. It was in a broken up display case, and it was at the thrift store, and I got it for a shockingly inexpensive amount of money because nobody realized what it was, and I took it out of the display case and rehomed it in here. This beautiful piece of beadwork was a gift. And this is the interesting thing about what I was saying in the beginning about tribal jewelry is that, you know, what would you guess? Would you guess African? Would you guess Native American? No, Philippines, the Philippines, Native people, tribe of the Philippines. And I went to a museum and I was telling some friends there about the beadwork and how surprised I was and excited. And I had bought a small piece in the museum gift shop. And then he said, just a second, and he ran up to his condo and he ran downstairs and he tossed me this beautiful necklace. Talk about generous. People are so generous to me. I just thought this would be fun to throw in there. This is from the 90s when we saw Madonna in Los Angeles. Hey, it is historical, right? This, no one will ever guess this one. This is the native Japanese, the work of the native Japanese. I'm sorry, I cannot remember their exact name. They were pushed way, way, way up to the northern island in Hokkaido. And again, this carving work was just phenomenal. That was a gift from a friend. And there's another piece in here, if I can focus, of the native Japanese. This one, that's one of from that tribe in Japan. I could go on and on. This one's from Kenya. These two pieces are from Kenya. This is actually a Native American piece. Bought it from a woman in Florida. But look at the craftsmanship. Look at all that work. And it is beautiful on anybody. Super fancy. It's another Peruvian piece. More inexpensive, like tourist trade, but still cool. Still cool to collect and visually. Oh, this one is really interesting. This is Shipibo. Shipibo is one of the Amazonian tribes that lives in Peru and then, snakes through into a couple other countries. And the Shipibo, I have a couple other Shipibo pieces, I have to find them, but this little bracelet, just beautiful work, beautiful work. I bought a lot of Shipibo beadwork as gifts for friends when I was in Peru. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, this piece is really neat. This was a family who did high-end beadwork in Columbus, Ohio. Their last name was Kohler. And at the time, this was very expensive. Do you see the crystal skulls and this big piece of crystal? And these are antique glass beads. I remember back when I was in my 20s and I first moved to Columbus, Ohio, and there was an amazing bead shop that was owned by who became a dear friend of mine, Joyce Griffith. And this piece of jewelry was in there. And to me, it just looked like if I wore it, I could command the elements. It just was so wizardly or witchy. And it was expensive. Back in the day, it was $125, which was a ton of money. Ton of money back in the day. And my dear mother actually sent me half the money or all the money for me to purchase it for myself for my birthday. And I have cherished it. I've really, really cherished it. These are cobalt glass, and this is a ruby glass. This shell piece is actually a belt, and I'm not sure where it's from. Found it at a thrift store. Looking at the back of the textile, could be South American, could be African, could be anything. But look at the little finish work on the ends. Yes, yes, yes. Lots of interesting stuff in here. This piece is brand new. Went downtown to downtown Santa Cruz in California, and there was a young lady, and she prints these out on a plastic and then finishes both sides and then warps them over a mold. And yeah, this is all printing and working with a type of lucite or plastic. But I just thought it was a really fine, really beautiful piece of jewelry. Tribal bear claw necklace, which is against the law now. But look at those suckers. I got that back at Powwow in the 80s. I was like, oh, you could tell I had an ego. Okay, so that's a look into my soon-to-be curio table. Hope you enjoyed it. And you know, if you have an old display box or you want to create a unique way to display your small antiques or curious items, this is definitely the way to go. You know, and you could set the table up, set the tabletop up on, you could use two antique suitcases. You could make a base just from, you know, willow or using like really primitive materials, some branches, and you know, screw them together, nail them together really securely, or I mean, it's really endless what you could use as a base for this, depending on the style of your furniture. I think I'm going to make a base for mine out of either willow, or we have a beautiful tree here and it's called madrone, and it's very snaky, and it throws these different shades of maroons, and it's really it's a hardwood, and it's really mysterious and really beautiful. So I think I'm going to make a really natural base for this to sit on. Okay, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I believe how we treat each other on the streets is our ultimate reality. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I can never guarantee what my next video will be about, and that's probably why I'm not a huge YouTube star with a gazillion viewers and subscribers, because I'm just living my best life. And so my videos just kind of follow my fancies. Bye. And follow your fancies. I highly recommend it.